Good evening and welcome to our Live on the Sofa with event. I'm Hannah and I'm the events coordinator for the Supporters Club. Before we start, just a quick reminder that our members' Player of the Season vote actually closes today, so do get any last minute votes in as they are very close at the moment. We also have our Champions t-shirts on sale over on our store. They are £12 for non-members and £7 for OSC members. I'd now like to introduce you to our host for this evening, that is Vic Morgan.
Good evening, Hannah. Good evening.
And Vic, hope you're well.
I'm very well, thank you. I hope you are too.
Well, good here, thank you. And joining Vic on the sofa this evening is former fans' favourite, Shaun Taylor. So I've now bring him on. Just got the microphone muted at the moment.
Hello.
Hello. Here he is.
There we go. Can hear you now. Right. I am now going to disappear. I will leave you in Vic's capable hands, and I'll be back a little bit later on. So if anyone does have any questions, please submit them in the comments below, and we'll ask as many as we can.
Hannah, thank you very much indeed. Before I welcome our guests along, as we always do at this time, we always like to send our very best wishes to those who are having consequences of this time that we're living through at the moment, and we send you all our very best wishes. And anyone who's having troubled times at the moment, we send our best to you. This particular gentleman was born on the 26th of February 1963, which you might well remember, well some of us do, was one of the hardest winters of all time, 62-63, which kind of made me think maybe that made him the type of footballer he is. Mr. Shaun Taylor, a very good evening to you.
Hi there, Vic. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I've never thought about that before, but you were
at the time I wasn't aware of that either, to be fair.
No, but it was a particularly cold time, so well done. Born in Plymouth, not too far down the road from where you are, where from I am. I'm across the Ex Estuary to you, so I'll just wave across the water at you. Now then, you had a variety of games for a lot of local clubs, of course, before you got into the pro game. You played for St Blaise, Bideford, Holsworthy. And it was interesting because we were talking to Tom Broadbent this time last week, now Swindon Towns centre half. He got in via a career in the army and various non-league clubs. As a background for a professional footballer, is that a help?
I think I would say it is to me, but obviously other players have gone through the apprenticeship scheme and it's benefited them. And I think I just got turned at Plymouth. I was not up to the required standard, and then I had to then find some work and then also play part time. And I think with my dad's influence, I got myself a trade as a plumber. I wasn't whether I was that keen or not, I don't know. But obviously, I wouldn't say I was pushed into it. But obviously, I got took a trade, did that, and also, like you say, played locally for, say, I think it was Holsworthy, then it's St Blaise, then Bideford, who were like probably the best around obviously the southwest, really.
Yeah, and it was from Bideford that you went to Exeter City. How did that come about?
Quite ironic, really. Obviously been doing quite well at Bideford, whatever. And there was, as you would know now, there was financial problems at Bideford with just financial difficulties, obviously paying wages and things like that. And the irony was that the day I was obviously my contract was cancelled, like a non-league contract. Exeter rang me up and said, would I be interested to come on trial for a month first and then go from there? Without any hesitation, I obviously had a contact with Mike Radford, who I'm not sure who's there now, whatever, but obviously was there as a youth coach. Then he did the groundsman, and obviously then I think lately he's been the secretary. But he rang me up and said, "Will I be interested for a trial?" And I took the opportunity at the time. The manager then was Colin Appleton, who so I was there. When I say I was there for a month, after 2 weeks, we had agreed after 2 weeks I'd sign a 18-month contract. So made my debut against Wolverhampton Wanderers at Wolverhampton Wanderers on around Christmas, where we drew 2 each. I remember those bits. Don't remember everything, but remember certain bits anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. You mentioned Mike Radford. He's still involved with Exeter City. Of course, he was very much influential on bringing a lot of the young players through, who they have since signed for big money, have they not? I mean, you know, Martin Phillips is one, 500 grand went to, I think it was Man City. So, you know, the youth policy has always been a good one at Exeter City, and he's been very much responsible for that. And at that point, of course, at Exeter City, you link up with Terry Cooper, do you not, who leads the team to the 4th Division Championship?
Yes, he did. I mean, that was exciting times. I think when I first joined Exeter, they were always struggling for getting re-election, but at the time then there was a case where they're always re-elected into the league again. So we were never at the top of the tree, whatever. I mean, obviously I thank Colin Appleton for giving me the opportunity, and then Terry come on board and made a massive difference to my career, hopefully my career, and also the football club. And we went unbeaten at home. I think only drawing 2 games and winning the rest at home, and winning the league quite convincingly or whatever. But really, maybe on our home form, maybe we did enough at home to win the league at home, but see certain games away from home, and we had some good cup runs as well. And remember that season really well, and it was exciting times. And we would, like I say, won that 4th division in, was that 90? I think it was 1990.
Yeah, it was 1990. I think Mark Cooper was included in that side, of course, who then went on to manage Swindon, do you know? That's
right, yeah, Mark. There was obviously a lot of players around there, like say, who have all gone on from there and played pro game. Mark, more so obviously with his dad's influence, and then obviously played for other clubs, and then went on to manage like Forest Green, and then go in Swindon, now obviously back to Forest Green again.
I mean, well, you had involvement with Forest Green a little later on, which we'll touch on maybe a little bit later. But now, you know, I said this to you before, but you are one of those rare players at whatever club you've been at, and, you know, from a Swindon perspective, to a player who later goes on to join Bristol City. And, you know, you're always fondly remembered. So why did you think that is? Is that because of the way you played the game?
I think about this, of course, about this question asked to me lots of times. I think it was, I perceived like I was doing it, I was working and I was doing obviously outside of football. Then I come in and I always wanted to be a professional footballer. And like I said, like I've always said before, and probably Pila Verdes before, obviously at the time I was single, so it was worth the chance again to leave the plumbing and go full time. And though now the monetary thing is all that, I was way better off being a plumber than I was going to be a professional footballer at Exeter City. But being single, and not saying if I was married with children at the time, that decision, but I think I still would have made that decision, that I was given another opportunity. And I thought, well, you don't get that many opportunities, and there's a chance now, whatever. And I always perceived, and I think I said that a lot, I think people at Swindon would realise, I was almost playing for them. They wanted to be me, if you know what I mean, on the terraces. I always had a good affection with the people at Exeter and Swindon and Bristol. And I'd like to think I played because I was trying that them to be, they want to be what I wanted to be, if you understand me. And probably a lot of them probably were quite close to being a professional player and probably didn't make it, but still played at a good level, whatever. So that was always in my back of mind, that they were, well, it's true, that they would pay my wages. So then I felt that I had to obviously pay them back, though, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. So you captain a side to the 4th Division Championship, which obviously attracts the attention of a certain manager at Swindon. Now, I remember the Friday that you signed. Right. This was in the middle of a fire sale a bit by Terry Cooper, wasn't it? It seemed to be selling players left, right and centre. And when did you find out that Glenn Hoddle might want to sign you at Swindon?
Well, I don't know. I know we got a bit of time, but it was a scenario where there was a bit of interest in me from other clubs as well. Namely, I'll say, remember David Webb at Southend? He was manager at Southend there. So there was more interest. There was some interest there. And at the time, when obviously we got promoted, whatever, there was a time where the managers Terry came to me and said, "What do you want to do?" He said, "There's obviously a contract here, but also," and I think he knew what he was asking me was, obviously I wanted to further my career and better my career, and obviously with the support obviously of him, whatever, he would make like to think if that's the case, then he, like you said at the time, and he said, I can promise you that I will obviously get you that move. Now, during that pre-season, as you rightly said, there was, I'm trying to think, there was Richard Dryden went somewhere, someone else went somewhere, and I'm thinking, I thought I've missed the boat here, and I'm thinking he has promised me that I'm going to go, but then I thought, how many players are going to go before, or like, was it too many to go, whatever. So the irony was, he called me and said, at the time he lived in Bristol, whatever. And he said to me, there was no mobile phones there, and he said to me, could you make your way to my house in Bristol? I said, fine. Now, he hasn't told me where I'm going or what's happening. So I drive all the way up to Bristol, and I thought, and I've left my wife at home, whatever. She hasn't got a clue where I'm going. She knows I'm going to Bristol, and that's it. So get to Bristol. I said to Terry, before we go anywhere, could you please tell me where we're going? And I first thought he was going to say we're going to Southend and see David Webb. He said, we're going to Swindon and see Glenn Hoddle. So from the Bristol, which is not that far from Swindon, I was in the car thinking I'm going to go in somewhere that I didn't think I was going to go for a start. And there's those rumors, there were the rumors of me going to Swindon and things like that. So then waiting and going and driving into the road is still there, whatever, and then meeting Glenn Hoddle, really, and really not saying I would have signed for nothing. It was a case where I'm in front of Glenn Hoddle, and I will say John Gorman was the assistant, and he was very key to it. I don't think Glenn actually, and this is true, I don't think Glenn actually watched me play. John Gorman watched me numerous times, whatever, and relied on John's credentials of seeing what they needed at the time, and then obviously I duly signed there and then.
Now, I don't know, I think the transfer fee was something like 200,000, 250,000.
Yeah.
I don't think you were,
yeah.
So, but I don't think Terry Cooper actually told you what the transfer fee was. Did he?
Well, I think everyone was aware that he probably had a percentage of all these transfers, whatever. So I think that's the privacy of Exeter and Swindon and things like that. Right?
Yeah, fair enough. And what did Glenn Hoddle say to you? Because he'd revolutionised, he'd taken over from Ozzy Ardiles, obviously, and who'd introduced a style of football to Swindon.
Yes. Yeah.
Glenn Hoddle came in and introduced his own style of football with him as the sweeper. So how did that all come about? How did he teach you into that?
Well, I think, like I said, Vic, I went into his room and he said, we would like to sign you. We're looking. John has watched you numerous times. He knows you're aggressive, aerially and strong in defensive areas. And it's an area that they were looking, obviously needed, whatever. And so he felt that obviously over time I fit the bill. So I joined. I think I signed in the June, and the season started. Well, like I say, in early August, whatever. And initially, I think it was quite difficult. I think we had a pre-season friendly against a Spanish side, and my wife come up. I didn't do very well in the game, whatever, and we stayed in this hotel, whatever. And like you do, you hear. I think is it still there? The Goddard Hotel, is that still there?
Goddard Arms, yeah,
it's still there. Well, we stayed there, and I was after the game, went had a drink with my wife, whatever. And there was obviously Swindon supporters there, and you heard people saying, "Oh, I'm not sure about this new player," or whatever. Because remember there was Nesta Lorenzo. Do people remember?
Oh, Gabriel Nesta Lorenzo, yeah.
Right. Well, I was taking sort of his place, whatever. And I know obviously it was the Argentinian World Cup, blah blah blah. It was a case where they and I was honest. I didn't, and like there was talk. Oh, I'm not so sure about this new player we signed, whatever. This and all that, whatever. And so maybe that was another thing that not got me wrong, but also think, well, I'll prove them wrong, whatever. Obviously, I need to improve, whatever. And as we did, I think we went to Holland that pre-season. I had a good pre-season, and that season, like I say, I got a few records here. We just missed the playoffs, didn't we? I think the reason we just missed the playoffs is, and I think everybody will know the reason why we missed the playoffs, is that Blackburn and Kenny Dalglish took Duncan Shearer away from us, and in the end didn't play him at all for them either. Is that right?
I think if I remember rightly, he went to Blackburn, as you correctly say, scored in his debut, and then basically didn't feature again. So that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I remember, it was a trophy, wasn't it? It was a competition in Holland that you played, and actually, I think you won it, didn't you? If I remember rightly.
I remember playing. It's the first time. Obviously, had pre-season with extras, but we end up going. No disrespect, we ended up going abroad and things like that. Probably down Exmouth Beach and things like that. But we had a good tournament. It was like teams from other clubs. Like I think it was a Greek team, and it was obviously it was in Holland, so we played at the Dutch side and things like that. And it was just like it is probably now you think it's normal, but to me it was just exciting to have a pre-season, get to know the players, whatever, and then sort of hit the ground running, really.
So when did you feel comfortable then? I think it was Real Sociedad that you played in that pre-season.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. John Toshak's team. But when did you feel comfortable then? Because Colin Calderwood was your partner in defence.
Yeah.
Is that right at the time? Yeah. So when did you start to feel comfortable?
I think having that pre-season, then going into the games. I think maybe our first game. I'm like I say, my memory's gone a little bit now. I think we played Leicester as the first game of the season. Was it? And I think we won 1-0. I think we won 1-0 or something. It just not say the first game clicked, whatever. I mean, we did a lot of work, whatever. I mean, people, whether they're aware or not, I mean, Glenn was involved in all the training. John took the training. Glenn was involved, obviously, as the manager and coach, but also he did majority of the training. And it just, and as you say, me and Colin Calderwood were the two left and right centre halves, and everyone says like Glenn was a sweeper at times. I think people appreciate he was almost playing in front of us, whatever. As such, though he was the sweeper, he picked the ball up. Sometimes we'd win it, and we were almost our forward pass would almost be to him, whatever, him being in a more forward position, whatever. So, and we had good wing backs, and like I say, that was the season. That season was a good bedding in for me, whatever, and being like I say, we were not that far off the playoffs, and then obviously the following season it all kicked into gear, really.
Yeah, it's Derby County, I think, was the game which decided it, wasn't it? Right at the end of the season, if I remember
right.
That's
right.
Yeah. So, okay, that was the first season. The second season, though, if I remember rightly, you managed to bang in about 13 goals, which for centre half is ridiculous.
There was a little competition. A few of us lived in the same area of obviously. I'm trying to think. West Swindon, behind the De Vere. A lot of people lived around that area, like Paul Bowden and Martinling and all that. And at the time, you've got to realise Paul Bowden was our left wing back, and I think he might even scored more than me. So I know he's on the penalties, whatever. I think he scored like maybe 14 or 15, and it was not like it was like a game, whatever. Like we obviously complement each other, and like I say, if you go up I've always, even when I was doing coaching with all young players, if you're going up for a corner, you're going up to score. You're not going to go up to make the numbers up. And that's where I feel a lot of people now, even people go up for a quarter not thinking they're going to score a goal. Every time I went up, I thought I got a chance of scoring a goal. And as the higher level you go, the better quality of the ball comes in. And that's not saying why I scored more goals, but obviously we had exceptional good players who could put a ball into an area where I quite enjoyed meeting the ball.
And actually, you talk about your heading ability, but I think people sometimes forget you like to carry the ball as well, didn't you? You like the ball at your feet, didn't you?
Yeah, my son's still got the one. They still keep on video the when we played Man United, when I sort of dribbled through the team now. And ironically, we only got a corner. I mean, I didn't even ever get a shot on, whatever. But it was a case where. But what I was saying, I wasn't. When I say I wasn't a dribbler, I liked it on the ball. I was encouraged by that, by the manager and the team, whatever, because I was part of that team. And if you're playing with no respect, good players like Glenn Hoddle and like Miggy Hazard and people like that, and John Moncur and people that I know that was latterly, whatever. But you wanted to be play just as good as they, though that you were not good as them footballers. But then you developed your way, and you wanted obviously to prove to people again that you could play as well. I mean, there's been lots of quotes that Harry Redknapp said about Glenn, he referenced myself, who obviously just a fourth division player who could head it and kick it, who then got into play. But it takes time, whatever, but also you've got to want to do it. And also I felt I wanted to do it because you didn't feel like embarrassed to do it, if you know what I mean. If you didn't do it, you obviously, like anything now, you've got to work at it and train it and work and things like that. And like I say, our training was very exciting. We did things, whatever. It would be good, to say back to the manager, but obviously he was taking part of it, whatever. So it's almost like every day you were trying to impress him so that you're going to play, be in his 11 every Saturday.
It's interesting because when you speak to today's players, they all say what quality Richie Wellens has, and if he'd been a bit younger, he still could be playing at a pretty high level. I'm guessing in training, Glenn Hoddle's pretty impressive, is he?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was he had a slight injury, but whatever. I mean, but when he came back from Monaco and he went to Chelsea and came, but I mean, for those seasons, I mean, he must have done really well if he showed any injuries or he had injuries or he looked after himself and all things like that. But you'll probably find they didn't miss many games in those two seasons that he was here, and we got promotion. And like I say, the team didn't change that much either. If you ever look at it, the nucleus of the team were always there really, and that always, in a successful side, that always helps as well.
When did you start to get the feeling that maybe, because this is another thing that I kind of forget about. You played at just about every level of football there is, isn't there? I mean, you haven't missed out at all. So when did you start to get the feeling that possibly, because I know one of your great ambitions was to play at Wembley and play at the top level and score at Wembley. So you kind of achieved all that.
You probably got that before me, because I used to tell that to everybody as well, whatever. But it was true, whatever. I mean, before we go ahead of it, that was. I mean, at that time, it was to play in the first division when I first started, wasn't it? I mean, the championship, the Premiership, was it the year before, or a couple of years, 91, 92, was it roughly?
Yeah,
I think. But so that was the goal that I always had. But going back to when we knew we had such a exciting. Well, I think the fans would appreciate. We had such an exciting side. We probably feared no one, though we didn't win every game, whatever. We sure give a good account of ourselves and could have won probably every game we played, whatever. And everybody was, I think, when everybody's on their plum and all that, on the bit, whatever, then you get a nucleus of a side that are going to be successful. Yeah, I think the way we played, and this is maybe the old thing about being a defender, we probably conceded more than we should have, but we were a very forward-minded team. We scored lots of goals. I mean, you're probably going to bring up the 6-4 at Birmingham and things like that, whatever. And people will recollect those games, but we were an entertaining side, and that's why I think. Well, I know why. Just saying about the games we're watching now on the TV now, with no fans, it's not the same. The fans give you that little bit of buzz in your body, and if you're not doing very well, they'll certainly tell you. And if you are doing well, they'll give you that little bit of sort of like freshness to do better.
I mean, you were a team that could score from everywhere, weren't you? I mean, you mentioned Paul Bodin. You had strikers who could score, midfield players who could score. And if you're going to have a good season, that is a big, big part of it, isn't it?
For sure. I mean, some teams rely on maybe the centre forward, but I mean, I think, and I used to collect when I played all the Rothmans and all the, obviously look at all the stats and all that. And the numerous people who scored in that season, I mean, like I say, Paul scored 15, I 13. Then there was obviously Steve White and the likes, and Dave Mitchell and Martin Ling and all that, Paul Bowden, and like I say, you said Nicky Summerby. Everybody chipped in, even no respect to Colin. Colin obviously was a very, very good player. I mean, he necessarily he did come up all the time, but like I say, he didn't score as many as probably he should have maybe. But obviously, I mean, he had definitely had other attributes than that.
So how did it work then? There you are, the three of you at the back, say, you got Glenn apparently behind you, but sometimes in front of you. Do you talk? Is it a case of you go up or you come back or you cover? How does it work?
With the ball, if Fraser had the ball, I mean, during the time then it was a case where, I mean, they changed that rule then where we couldn't pass the ball and pass it back. And everyone thought that affected us badly, only because solely we did it for the right reason. We wanted to get the ball out quick, whatever. So that was one, but that the only thing would be that is in possession of the ball, that me and Colin would split as wide as you can. The two wing backs would then push on. So we're almost then playing left back and right back. Then there's a lot more space then for the goalkeeper to throw it up to us, or then into Glenn, or maybe into midfield player Ross McLaren or Martin Ling. So the pitch was really, now the only vulnerable thing is that is you lose possession of the ball, your shape is quite expanded, whatever. So, but with the players we had in the team, whatever, not saying we didn't give the players didn't give the ball away, but the majority of the time we had the ball and we were almost attacking straight away. where the ball got played into Glenn, who then, and we all know Glenn, he would put one ball in, and Nicky Summerby or Paul ball in, Rory in, or Dave Mitchell was in with his pace in behind the opposition. But on the other side, about defensively, when they had the ball, I mean, me and Colin, as everyone used to say, me and Colin would win the ball and give it to Glenn.
I
Simple.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, I just remember him hitting one, I don't know, 60-yard pass at Ipswich one night and going, how did he do that? You know, it's just ludicrous, isn't it? That amount of talent. Yeah.
No, I mean, in training when we did finish him, whatever, he was still the best finisher, and with left and right for his technique. You don't lose your technique, whatever. I mean, obviously certain things you do lose, whatever, but you never lose your technique, whatever. And I mean, it was, I don't know, sound like I am praising him, because obviously he probably, and I should have played more games for England and things like that. And everybody, as I read papers now about saying about him, that he should have played more. And then well, I know he was a very good player. He was an exceptionally good player. I mean, and we only saw him really, like, again, in his latter career, really.
But thankfully we saw him. I mean, you know, when you get an opportunity to watch a player like that in your team, it's quite a burst, isn't it? I mean, and to play with him must have been an absolute dream. I mean, oh, goodness me, you know, you're playing for Holsworthy 1 minute, no disrespect to Holsworthy, and the next minute with Glenn Hoddle. Extraordinary.
But I think on that is the case, like what we just said before, you want to obviously impress him, because obviously who he is, whatever. Yeah, he's the manager, and you want to be in his side, whatever. But then you're doing that, and I could vouch for that. That everybody then we're all together, that we're all playing from the same hymn sheet, whatever. We all want to do well, and all right. If you say that, or we should have won the league. Now, I mean, we were a side, like you said before, we were very entertaining. We were at times quite open, so we would obviously concede goals, whatever. But I mean, that would only prove, obviously, and maybe I'm getting there a little bit too early, but it proved how we got to the final, really.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the semi-finals and the final in a minute, but you know, let's talk about, many call it the miracle of St Andrews. You kind of highlighted it earlier, right? You're 4-1 down at Birmingham, which, to be honest, in those days, the old St Andrews Terraces, pretty soulless place to go. Let's be honest.
He was the manager of Birmingham that year. He was the manager.
Oh gosh, was it Terry Cooper?
It was Terry Cooper.
Yeah. So there you are, you're 4-1 down. I think then Hoddle steps into the fray, and then it all turns around. Take it through from a player's point of view.
Well, I mean, again, I might get it all wrong here, whatever. I remember starting the game, whatever, and we went, it was 0-0, and I went off, I got with a cut eye. So we're down to 10 men, and I'm in the dressing room being stitched up, and I hear a roar, and the doctor saying, oh, that's 1-0. Birmingham 1-0 up. And so at the time I said, well, would you mind just hurrying up? I'd obviously stitch me eye, whatever, because I need to go out there again. Then I hear another roar, then we're 2-0 down. So by that time, I come back off the, obviously had my eye stitched, whatever. We're 2-0 down. Come on. I'm trying to say, I would blow my trumpet. I made it 2-1. And I think that's when we come. Then I think that was a half-time score. Was that right? Half-time score 2-1?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Because the reason I say that is because obviously then Glenn gave us the speech, or we're going to do this, whatever. Lo and behold, we're then 4-1 down in the second half. Now, maybe I get it wrong or not. It was just a case where you're 4-1 down, no one gives you a chance, whatever, and that's where I think it just showed the capabilities of the football of the players on that day, whatever. I mean, there was no. You can have no fear when you're 4-1 down, whatever, because you in theory you are going to lose the game, whatever. I just think maybe it's the same scenario as maybe with Leicester and Swindon with us in the final, whatever. We were at that head and they came back, but it was a case where the manager changed a little. I'm not sure, I may be wrong. I can't remember now really how he changed it, but he just changed the system a little bit. Again, like you say, I think he went into midfield, whatever. We went a little bit more. Again, we were probably a little bit stretched to the back, whatever. But at the time, it was gun ho, whatever, and we managed to peg it. Well, when I say peg it back, and then ironically win the game 6-4. And people, as I know, every Swindon fan will, if they're will remember that that game.
I guess if you're the opposition and it starts to turn against you, it's like the opposition are on a roll, aren't they? And then suddenly that momentum turns. And I was going to say, have you ever played in a game where it went the other way? But we'll talk about the Wembley game later, because it very nearly did, didn't it?
Yeah.
Right, let's get to the semi-finals then. Tranmere Rovers in that semi. Decent enough performance in the first leg. And then you go to Prentice.
Is it 3-1?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head.
3-2, because I mean, we're winning 2-0. Then John Aldridge scored to make it. Was it? I'm sure it was 3-1, wasn't it? I'm sure the first.
It was close going up to Prenton Park. So you got to put a decent performance in that second leg. And I think Craig Maskell gets a goal, doesn't he?
Yeah, we get a good start, whatever. Then it just, whatever, I don't know. It's just, that's the football game. I mean, imagine, and Tranmere was, well, when I say we're a big club, I've been a big club and all that, and the fans and things like that, they got behind them, whatever, and then I think they managed to get 2 goals back, whatever. So it was a very nervy ending, but that probably was all about us as a season. Would score at will, whatever. We're at times vulnerable, maybe to like conceding a goal. Not that being a defender was best pleased, whatever. But obviously you had to take that on the chin, because obviously the way we played, or whatever. And we could never be ultra cautious, if you understand what I mean, because that was not the nature of the team. That's why the other results proved that where we got to in that season.
So I remember being on the sunny bank at Prenton Park and celebrating an appearance at Wembley. You were going to go to Wembley. How did you feel at that time?
I think everybody had a good time that evening on the way back on the bus, on the coach on the way back, whatever, and thinking like a lot. I'm trying to think how many of the players had actually thought first and foremost played at Wembley. I mean, obviously it was Glenn. I'm not really sure how many had already played at Wembley, but I know, like I said before, I mean, all those things were fulfilled in one day, really. And it was like, say, going to play at Wembley. My wife, my family were all there, whatever. And like say, but then the event was bigger than that as well, really. It was like everybody's talking about now. It was a multi-million thing then, whatever, and now it's even multi-million now compared to what it was, whatever. But like I say, it was. I mean, so long. Seems a long time ago. To be fair, but
yeah.
You do remember those things when people remind you of those things that happened and all that, and probably people's stories are a little bit different, but they're all roughly very similar to how it all panned out on the day, really.
How was Glenn then? Because he was particularly, I think he was noted for a different dietary attitude, wasn't he? He'd come back from the continent. So how was he with celebrations? Did you have to be a bit mooted, or was he happy for you to have a pint or two, or what?
I'm saying I didn't notice anything different. Like, I think, as you know, people were very professional, whatever. I mean, it was a case where if you played on a Saturday, you went out on a Saturday night, whatever. If you had a game on a Tuesday, you didn't go out 48 hours before a game, whatever. But maybe you went out for a drink maybe on a Tuesday night, but then you had the next day off. I mean, at that time, and I mean, there's always talking about it now, whatever. And I'm not saying it was right or wrong, but everybody did it, if you know what I mean. Not saying they wanted to do it or did do it, but if it was a social we had, then I think that was a big part of maybe the camaraderie of a team, whatever. I'm not saying you go and booze up all the time, because obviously those things will be shown up over time, whatever. But I think going back to the Tranmere, we obviously had a good time on the way back there, and we were all quite together, whatever. And then going back to special diets, I can't really remember special diet at the time. Then everybody was doing that anyway, that having the pastas and things like that, whatever. I mean, and so he never really give us what we should have and all that. He was mindful. I mean, but even then, everybody for a pre-match meal would like have chicken or pasta and things like that. So there were always the things there. There was nothing out of the ordinary, whatever. I mean, we'd not saying like the Italians, we never had a glass of wine with our meal on like a Friday night, whatever. So that was not there, whatever. But then if you're not used to it, then you wouldn't do it anyway, would you? If you're going to play on the Saturday afternoon anyway.
So there you are. Then you're off to Wembley, the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
My view of Wembley's it's never was the greatest of stadiums, but never mind, you're there.
Why?
And I just don't know. I just thought, it was tired, I thought, as a stadium.
Okay. Right.
It's just a tired stadium. But anyway, it's a classic red versus blue scenario. Half the stadium's red, half the stadium's blue.
Yeah,
I was very fortunate enough to sort of follow the two teams out in my guise as a reporter. And walking up that slope onto the Wembley pitch, I've never been so scared in my life. It's like a jet engine noise suddenly hits you. What's it like as a player, knowing you have to go out and perform on that pitch?
Well, the first thing that was when we went out, obviously before the game, whatever, and I was expecting, like you just said, and I've said, I've only seen, I've never been to Wembley before, even to watch anything else. So I've only watched it, but seen it on the TV, and it was, when you watch it on TV, it's like a massive ground. Now, as I come out and walked out, it didn't, I wouldn't say it looked small, but it was not as big as what I thought it was, whatever. The pitch was obviously the same size as everything else, but also the surroundings. But just looking around, whatever, I mean, obviously wobbly butterflies and all things like that. And that was obviously going out for before we warmed up, whatever, but going out on the pitch and having a look and getting warming up, whatever. And like you say, walking out, whatever, I mean, it is a lot of people who are football people, everyone's dream, I suppose, to go out there. And like I say, I'm trying to say, I know you said it was a bit old and all that. It didn't trigger to me, whatever. It was old and looked like it was a mecca of football, wasn't it, really? And everybody, it was a fantastic venue, really.
Well, it was a fantastic day, as it turned out. But let's go through the game then. You go 3-0 up. Glenn Hoddle, of course, gets to first. Craig Maskell gets a goal, and Shaun Taylor gets a Shaun Taylor goal. If ever there was a Shaun Taylor goal, that's it. Take us through it.
I've watched it a few times, but not recently, not for probably a while now. But I just remember it was a corner. John McCurr put the ball in. The ball got headed out, and then whether John took the corner, sorry, or server to the corner. Whoever, John McCurr put the ball back in, whatever. It was between me and the goalkeeper, and I just thought there's a chance here, whatever. And long story short, I got a picture, and it's not out in obviously show, whatever, but it's in the attic, whatever. It's a picture. You don't actually see my head, whatever. There's my body and the goalkeeper, and you can't see my head, whatever, because that's how close we were. And then obviously I managed to get in front of the goalkeeper. And is it Pears? Was it? I'm trying to think. Pears, was it?
Is it Stephen Pears? If I remember, I don't know. Anyway, can't remember the Leicester player.
Yeah. And it went in the goal, and then we're 3 up there and thinking, and you could hear. You're just saying it was half red, half blue. All you could hear was just the Reds. That's all you could hear. Just red fans shouting and screaming and cheering.
How did you feel then when it hit the net? I mean, all of us who've ever played football at whatever level, that moment is something we've always dreamed of, whether we think the stadium is tired or not. To score a goal at Wembley is a pretty good achievement. So at that moment, how did you feel?
Well, the first thought was we're in a great position here. We're 3-0 up, whatever. And I did not say I can't say it now, but we're not going to lose it from here, whatever. We're on a crest of a wave. We're in a great position here, whatever. I mean, obviously, I'm delighted and probably won't get the effect of that probably until after the game, what you've done, whatever, and thinking, right, we just know, I mean, there's still quite a long time to go, whatever, but we knew we were in a great position here. But knowing, in a way, the job hasn't been done yet because, like I say, we've got a 3-goal lead and there's still some time to go in the game.
Kevin Poole was in goal for Leicester.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've just been reliably informed by.
Good memory. Tim, you get older, you forget all these things, but.
Yeah, exactly. So somebody just told me that, Tim. Thank you very much. So that's fine. So 3-0 up.
Yeah.
A bit like Birmingham, they must have been thinking, "Hang on, we got this one." And then, in the space of it seems the blinking of an eye, I'm behind the goal at the Leicester end, and I can tell you, it's like bedlam going on all of a sudden, and you're in the heart of that Swindon defence. Are you shell shocked? How are you feeling?
Well, it's a strange scenario. Like I said, like when 1-0 up, 2-0 up, and 3-0, and then all you heard the red side is like when they got the next goal. and I know for sure all the Swindon supporters were cheering us on. You could not hear that. You heard the blue end or the blues singing or shouting. It was just, that was such a real thing that I always was I wasn't sure why, whatever. Like, so I know Swindon supporters were trying to get behind us and all things like that. So obviously being 3-1, then 3-2, and it's getting a bit nervy now. But I think that was easy to say. When they got the third goal, I think they had put so much effort into getting that third goal. I think if you look at the records, and I'm sure there's probably maybe another, I'm sure it's at least 10, 15, maybe longer minutes to go. We created we created after that some really good chances, whatever. I want to say, I'm almost sure where we had some good chances, and we almost like, they must have put so much, it's easy to say it now, I know, but they must have put so much effort to get back in the game. They had obviously given their everything, and like Swindon have been all season, whatever, we're always going to create opportunities. And for sure, I think I had a good opportunity, a good save, I think, and then ironically we got the goal we deserved.
Chalky got the penalty. What did
It was
you
a
think about
penalty.
I was going to say, Chalky is famous for doing that out the top of the team.
Yeah. I mean, that was always the thing. But I mean, he was taken out, penalty, and then there was obviously a little bit of pressure on Paul, really.
Yeah, a lot of pressure, but he took it very well, didn't he? Yeah, very well.
And then I'm not even sure how long it was to go after that. I'm trying to think of the timing of that.
Afterwards, then obviously there's the celebrations, all that kind of thing. Then you come back to Swindon, which goes bonkers. There are things over the motorway signs, all that kind of stuff.
Bridges and all that, yeah.
Yeah, and the town is literally going mad, isn't it? It's full of stuff.
Yeah.
I think you had a dinner, didn't you?
We had it in the De Vere, didn't we? We had a De Vere,
yeah.
Which was, it was. But then they showed the game again while we were obviously sitting down, whatever. I mean, I'm not sure what would have happened if we'd lost the game, whatever. But obviously, everybody was in high spirits and emotional and all that. I mean, there was still the talk, obviously, don't forget, obviously, of Glenn not even like we were playing the semi-finals and all that. There was still talk that, there was rumours, and probably the rumours were true, whatever, that Glenn was, at the end he did go, but was on his way out, whatever. But that was, to be fair, that you would have thought that would have made us not so sure of ourselves or as a team, whatever. But I don't think it showed. It happens, whatever. And obviously he was still with us through the semi-finals and the final, whatever. And then probably may have made his decision difficult. I don't know, whatever. But obviously he made, like you would do in your career, made it probably, whether it's right or wrong, he obviously thought he could further his career, obviously going to Chelsea, which you cannot, for what he'd done for the club. I think the fans, I don't think there was any animosity towards him there on that at all. I don't think. Was there at the time or no?
I think there were one or two kind of held it against him. But, hey, that's life. People move on, don't they? But I think it's also worth remembering there were one or two players in that Swindon team who'd got promotion in 1990, of course, and had gone through the similar experience only to miss out for other reasons. So, I think Colin Coldwood, Steve White, people like that would have gone through a similar experience. This time it was for real. There was promotion. Yeah,
very, very much so. Like I say, I was knowing Colin quite very well there, and what happened there, whatever. I mean, it was for everybody. I mean, like I say, going back to what we were talking about with Glenn and all that, I think he'd done what he said he was wanted to do. Obviously, got us into the Premier League. Right?
You mentioned how the team really changed. I think it's fair to say in the Premier League, it did change quite a lot, didn't it? Adrian Whitbread, I think, was your partner to begin with.
Then I think Brian Kilcline, another one, played.
Yeah.
And Terry Fennick. There was lots of change. I mean, I think it was, and I keep saying I've said it before, but that was the time when whoever was going up, and I think Swindon knew they were going to have a good time. This is the club, or the club and the fans were having a good time. The players who were there, who obviously saw things through, whatever, wanted to have a good time. But knowing that we probably were short, because reference at that time, a lot of clubs went up for one season and come down again, like Derby did it and come down. It was it wasn't I know it still happens now, whatever. So the finances that we had there were not enough for us to stay up there, really. I mean, we lost key players, and without anyone, not saying it's anybody's fault, it's very difficult to replace those players with people on a par. We probably didn't do that at all as well, whatever. But I didn't know, obviously not aware of the finances and all things like that. So, and like I say, about being John, obviously Glenn left and John was going to go in the end. John stayed. And I think if someone tells you, oh, would you stay to be manager of a Premiership side? I think you'd ever go, whatever. And I mean, and like I say, people have already said it, and that he probably fed up. He's always a lovely chap and all that, and he was a lovely chap. And I got on really well with him. And as people may have said to me sometimes, he's a good number 2, but not like a. But then we're in the Premiership, whatever. I mean, we lost a very key player in the manager stroke player.
Yeah.
Dave Mitchell, Colin Calder left. So we're losing very good players, and that's no disrespect to the people who came in. Who were not good enough, and also all the rest of us are then playing up to an even higher level. And it proved that we were not good enough. I mean, I keep saying, people say, "Oh, you're playing the Premier," and I have got that always to say I have. But that was a case where I did enjoy every minute of that Premiership, but not knowing that we were good enough, or at times that I was good enough, or as an individual. Not saying I didn't try and things like that, whatever. I mean, I enjoyed, but then I was going to places, Vic, that only you're just saying you're dreaming about. To places like Old Trafford and Highbury and White Hart Lane and things like that. You were going somewhere that, like you say, all the fans wanted to go, and all the fans come with us, didn't they? They went everywhere, and we all our allocation, they all came. Our home games, you can get in our bar afterwards for people and things like that. It was mad. It was just a mad season of obviously being in a league that everybody wanted to be in, and rightly so. You got a ticket by the horns, whatever. I'm sure that, and I know the fans enjoyed it. I know they would have wished that we were at another season in there, but I think it was a case where we're just short, of a quality team to, and though I know keep all these stats, whatever, it's easy to say, oh, we drew 15, but if we had won 5 of them, we would have stayed up, whatever. I mean, I know that's everyone can say that, whatever, but we were always the worst. The bugbear of me was that we had Leeds the last game of the season. We were on 96 goals, and you know what I mean. And you pride yourself on defending. Obviously, we concede 100 goals in the season, and it doesn't bear well on. Well, as a defender, no one likes conceding goals out. But we're playing against the Alan Shearers and the Ian Wrights and the Peter Beardsleys and the Robbie Fowlers and the Mark Hugheses and the Conchelses and the Ryan Giggs. So, well, people that. So that was it was a dream of playing against those people and not being afraid of them, nowhere near being afraid of them, but probably good enough, maybe as an individual, or maybe probably more so as a team, really.
Good enough to get a point at home against Man United, though, and that iconic moment. I've got to ask you about that iconic moment where Eric Cantona stands there as if to say, you can't send me off. I'm Eric Cantona, and then he gets the red card out.
But he'd been sent off just previously, didn't he? Was that the Crystal Palace incident before then?
No, Palace was after that. He got sent off the following Tuesday at Arsenal, so he kind of had a bit of a.
It was, exceptional player, whatever. But I mean, you just can't do what he did post up. But going back, obviously, whether my favourite team is this, and obviously I'm a Man United supporter, but to play against your favourite team, obviously again at Swindon, but maybe at Old Trafford, whatever, it was keep saying dreams come true. You when you're young, you think, oh, I'm going to do this and do that, and you don't always achieve those things, but then sometimes you do.
Following on from that season, of course, is another disappointing season, isn't it?
Yeah.
And of course, in those days, I don't think the parachute payments were in operation, were they? So you're kind of, this is another thing that you're left with.
Yeah.
How difficult was that season?
See, it's hard to those are the. And this may sound silly. They're hard to recollect what actually happened. It just seemed we nosedived, didn't we? Obviously, relegation from the Premiership, then relegation from Division 1. I'm not saying I broke my arm in Fraser at Middlesbrough, so I missed quite a chunk of the season before John left, and then obviously then Steve McMahon came, which was what that was. Just trying to think, was that 90, 94, 95?
94. I think John Gorman left in about November 94. Yeah.
And then Steve McMahon coming. I was still out injured with a broken arm. I'm sure of it because he played. I remember his first game. Did he get sent off his first game?
I was trying to think if he got sent off or booked. He certainly got. He got one of the two. I can't remember off the top of my head.
No.
Yeah, because he said something like, "Not many Swindon players get booked, and that's the problem." He said. I thought it was one of the great quotes. Yeah.
I mean, it was. I think. Well, it's easy to say you don't remember what actually happened those seasons, but it just seemed all of a sudden we're out of the Premiership and then we're in like Division 1, whatever. And I mean, when we got in that, I mean, going back, obviously bad times, but we had a nucleus of a young group, younger players coming through and all that. And without being, we won the league quite not easily, but obviously because really we had better players for that division, really. If mindful of we didn't have the better players in the Premiership, but we had enough quality in that team. And we won the league quite convincingly that season, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean that was the shirt behind.
That was the shirt, yeah.
Beforehand, yeah. And I said to you, how difficult was it wearing that shirt? Because I've played football wearing that shirt, and it's quite irritating around the neck, isn't it?
Around the neck a little bit, yeah.
So did you cut the neck, or
I think once you're on that pitch, whatever, you don't really worry about what you're wearing, whatever. As long as you see the ball, you get on with that, whatever. I mean, the number of different kits like you've got and I've got, whatever. I mean, it's nice. Obviously, it's red and all that, and like I say, the different sponsors and all things like that, whatever. But I mean, it wasn't really like. I think everyone likes wearing a nice kit, whatever. I mean, overall, they were okay, whatever. But like I say, it was 2 relegations, and then I think obviously quite upbeat that we got promoted, but probably without being should have, because we had a lot more quality than we had for the obviously the other 2 leagues. Right?
How about your departure from Swindon then? Can you talk about that? Was it a bit sour? How was it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it was quite. When I say quite sour, I think the saddest thing was, and I think I've said it before, I didn't have a chance to say goodbye, really. Like, not that I wanted to or needed to, but I just think what the fans had given me, whatever. I didn't really. I couldn't explain at the time. I don't think. I couldn't. I know I couldn't explain at the time. Whatever. I had another season left on my contract. Pre-season, the manager was keen for me to sign again, and all of a sudden he wasn't. And then lo and behold, Mr. Hunt gave me a call and said, "Oh, we had an offer from Bristol City to from them, whatever." And I said, so my first answer was really, well, I need to speak to the manager. Whether I did or not, I said, well, if I'm not going to be playing at my age, then I need to be playing. Why I wasn't playing was, well, obviously I was told my legs had gone and all things like that. The old classic where everybody says those things, but obviously it's an easy thing to say, whatever. If I was in my 30s, whatever. Don't forget, though I played all my non-league and all that, I didn't join the league till I was 23. So, I mean, I hadn't been in this. Well, I've been in the league a long time, but just someone tell your legs are gone is not a nice thing. And then I thought, well, if I'm not going to be playing at my age, there's no point in me being here. And I had a year to go, whatever. So that was okay, but I wasn't prepared to just mope and not play a game of football, which may have made it easier for the manager and the football club to say, well, Bristol City want me, they're willing to pay a fee for me, that someone does want me to play, whatever. And obviously at the time Joe Jordan was the manager, whatever. I had a chat with him, whatever. I think the chairman at the time there was Scott Davidson, I think. I had a chat, whatever, and well, he gave me in a way a lifeline, because as I was told, I wasn't going to play any more games for Swindon Town, really.
Just say Stephen Martin did get sent off against Southend. It was his first game in charge. Tim, again, thank you for reminding me. So your legs have gone, but you win promotion with City, don't you? So that's not bad when your legs have gone, is it?
Well, no, I mean, to be fair, I went there, like I say, that's in your mind a little bit. Then I went there, without being, it was a good club, nice stadium and all that, and I enjoyed my time. And like I did at Exeter, and like I did at Swindon, like at Bristol, I wasn't going to change the way I played. I just can't change the way I played. Obviously, I was getting older. Whether I was getting slower than what I was before, I don't know. I could still head the ball, I could still kick it, I could still control it, and things like that. Got in better positions, whatever. And like I say, we got promotion. I'm trying to think when we got promotion. What?
Let's have a look. 1998.
Yeah, 98. Yeah. But that season, I missed the last. We were playing. It was us in Watford, chance to win the league, whatever. We had Watford home. We drew one each, but then I did my cruciate ligament, my knee. So that was like 4 or 5 games before the end of the season. So then we got promotion. I missed the last couple of games, whatever. But then I didn't play the next season. Though, like now, it's like 6-7 months. I mean, I had age on my didn't have age on my side. I think I took 9.5, 10 months. But then I had another 2 years. So I finished playing at 38. But barring the injury, I thought I could have carried on. But obviously, I ruptured my obviously my cruciate then, and then missed the following season when we had managers Benny Leonardson. We had him, so I didn't play under him. Whatever. Then trying to think who else. I'm trying to think after we had after that, whatever. But I just then Tony Pulis come in. So I played with Tony Pulis, and he was very good to me, good coach, whatever. Like defensively, obviously we were struggling when obviously and then I played the next season, and then I did my knee again in training, and like sort of then he left and Danny Wilson came in. This is around 2000. I finished playing in 2000, and Danny wanted me to play, and my head said I could play, but my leg didn't say I could play, whatever, and then I stopped playing, and I coached there with them till 2000 well, I left Bristol at 2005, but I stopped playing in 2000. But we had successful seasons there. 2000 got into the playoff final, lost that, whatever, won the Freight Rover as a coach and all that, and had a good time there. And then I left when Brian Tinian was in charge in 2005, I think. And that's when I left.
Yeah, and then you went to Forest Green, didn't you, with Gary Hours, I think?
Gary Hours,
yeah. How did that that ended?
Yeah, it was a scenario where it's the complete opposite of what Forest Green are now. Whatever, we're still at the lawn. We were asked to obviously stay in the league, and as the move to up the road, obviously up literally 500 yards up the road, whatever. Successfully did that. Obviously stayed in the league, whatever. The next season, well, Gary only got sort of like 7 games in the new stadium, and then obviously he was sacked, whatever, and I had no intention of staying because obviously he brought me there, whatever. So I left there, and then I mean I've got it all written down, whatever. It was that I left there in 2000, so I went there in 2005 and left there in 2007, and from there people think, oh, you're always in football, but probably had the most difficult time of no way of my life, whatever, but obviously not involved in football, didn't know what to do. Did it for 12 months, did some scouting for Man City in the local area, like watching games and all that, but not really involved with things, whatever. And then we just living in Bristol at the time, then we decided to move back down to the West Country, really.
I think you were linked with the Exeter City job a couple of times, weren't you?
Quite a few times, yeah. Numerous times I had interviews and all that. Was not successful. I think it was between me and Paul Tisdale, and obviously, he got the job and did an extremely very good job there. Applied for it again, got an interview, but there's that thing about being a manager, and I think I said before, whatever. Probably no, I'm not a very good manager, but probably as an assistant and supporter of a manager, from my record there, I've had. That's been quite successful. Obviously, then I went to extra coach, and then I went with Martin to Torquay. I'm trying to think the dates were then. That's 2011 to 2013 when we did really well there.
Yeah, I was going to say, you might remember a Boxing Day encounter with Paolo Di Canio.
Paolo Di Canio, yes, yeah.
Where
Fantastic.
actually it was a bit of a tactical masterclass, to be honest, wasn't it? Because you stifled Swindon that day and won 1-0.
That's right. Well, I mean, that was a time when probably, if you want to say Swindon were on the up, whatever, obviously had Paolo in charge, whatever. I remember going up. I think we might have lost the game up there, I think, at your place, I think. But we end up winning the game against Swindon and end up in the playoffs that season, which was, we were only like told to keep them up the league or whatever. But we had a good season that season. Then the following season, obviously didn't go too well with obviously Martin not being that well, whatever, really.
Yeah, we wish him well continually, obviously.
Yeah, we do,
yeah. You've been back involved in the youth academies at Argyle and at Torquay, which is where it ends in terms of football, doesn't it? Because we were chatting last week, and you kind of got your life back in a way, haven't you? Which you're quite pleased about, I think, aren't you?
Well, I think maybe my wife maybe not so pleased. I don't know, whatever. But made a conscious, probably this September, came out of the, obviously had no fallouts at all with Torquay. Obviously was there as the assistant manager with Gary Johnson, and we got promoted into the league. Then I was first team coach and then involved with the youth there, whatever. But just the point where I was not focused on what I needed to do, whatever, decided to come away from the game. And from September, I've been working for a company, agency assistants, which is for the people with learning difficulties. Not that I'm teaching any learning difficulties. I'm there as like a general maintenance, doing various jobs, whatever. I wouldn't tell you what I was doing the day, whatever, but it was a case where one day they got houses in Exmouth, in Budley, and in Exeter, and they're obviously got carers and all that. And I do general maintenance. Any major things need doing, I can call professionals, but any minor things like maintenance, be an ex-plumber, do those, cut the grass. Quite enjoy those bits. I think people might realise that I quite enjoyed those bits when I was at Swindon and people that know me at Bristol, whatever. So just really still in the fresh air, still outside, Monday to Friday, weekends off, be able to now do things that all the time I was and enjoyed my time as a footballer. Now we haven't been away recently, but I have opportunities to go away when the times before I couldn't go away, and just nice to finish in the evening, and that's done, and then concentrate on the next day, and not to say we don't enjoy life, but just enjoy a bit more relaxed time, really.
I don't know if you can pick up a helicopter in the background. I think it's probably the police helicopter because of that cardboard cutout I was telling you earlier. They probably see my picture on a wanted poster. And we should never forget, of course, your brother Craig, who, of course, was also at Exeter. He played for Argyle, and of course, memorably played for Swindon too. So there was a family connection there.
Yeah, but we're still well. There's 11 years. The only thing that we never managed to do was be on the same time at the pitch road, and that could have. So when he was it's a long story. When I was at Swindon, I was at Bristol City, and when I said obviously I got injured at Bristol City, they played Swindon, but he didn't play in that game. And when I was at Bristol, he was playing for Torquay, but I had my injury there. So our paths across quite a bit, and well, not this because there was one chance that maybe we were going to be could be in the same team, but it didn't happen. But the only scenario is, like I say, he had a good career, but we never actually managed to be on the same pitch at the same time in our careers, really. But there is 11 years difference between us, to be fair. So.
Yeah, I always remember he got a very serious injury playing for Argyle on the last day of the season, which I always kind of think is like the worst day of the season to get an injury on, isn't it? Because you're looking forward to a time to relax, etc.
Yeah.
Well, Shaun, thank you. I know you're keen to watch the second half of Man United versus Tottenham, having revealed your favour for the Manchester United team. So thank you very much indeed for that. But your time is not yet done because we have loads of questions to put you from the fans. But thank you. I will let Hannah come back in and she can ask you some questions. Okay.
Oh, yes, we have had plenty of questions in on Facebook, but I'm conscious of time and people wanted to go
No
watch the
problem at all,
football.
Hannah. Anytime. Sorry.
So I'll try and get through them as quickly as possible. So I think we'll start off with, what was the worst thing about being a professional footballer? I've been told you're not allowed to say nothing at all.
Well, that was probably one thing. Being a professional footballer is what I always wanted to be, and that's terrible. And the worst being a professional footballer, obviously losing a game of football, losing a game. That was probably easily the worst thing. But obviously, worst thing, obviously losing a game of football. But that's not it's just one of those things, isn't it? Whatever. But like I say, other than that, I enjoyed every other bit of it, really.
Excellent. We've also got a question. We've asked quite a few of the guests that we've had on with us. So what was the best prank that was played either in the dressing room or in an away game, either by yourself or by another player?
Some I'm not going to say, obviously. I'll be very careful. This was in the 80s and 90s, don't forget. So prank, I'm trying to. I don't know. Well, I'm definitely not going to say the player. Is that fair enough or no?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
But then, if you hear it, then they know who the player was. But anyway, it's probably a Christmas do, whatever. We organised a Christmas do, and everybody said we're going to fancy dress, and then we didn't. Everyone didn't go fancy dress except that one person. How about that? That's pretty bad, isn't it?
Do you know what was the fancy dress, Shaun? Can you tell us?
No. I'm not going to say. But that's not. That was just one thing, whatever. But like I say, it wasn't a very nice thing. And you had, but like I say, it was one of those things. Right? So, another question. Another question. Sorry.
That's all right, no worries. So Swindon Sparkle asks whether you actually had any fears at all, as on the pitch you could smash through brick walls quite literally.
I had no fears. I mean, probably there's more fear now as I'm an age now where probably the repercussions of all that time heading the ball and things like that might reoccur. As I'm saying to Vic, I can't remember this or I can't remember this. But hopefully everybody in their late 50s is the same scenario as me. But probably now that's probably the little bit of worrying thing. And now obviously with the people like saying about heading the balls, and now they're going to do that now with young children in training and all that. I mean, when I was doing the coaching, I was more thought about that more, whereas I would head the ball for exaggeration for a long time. I was quite more concerned if we're doing a heading session that would only be for a limited time, like say young, say under 18 players, whatever. But I used to head the ball for fun for a long time, which maybe was not a good thing at the time.
And so, who was the hardest centre forward that you had to come up against in the Premier League?
I've been asked that before. It's all those little ones, the ones that get around your ankles and all that, and are not very big, and they get around you, whatever. Like so, the ones that, the main one was probably Peter Beardsley, people like that, Ian Wright, people like this who were a lot quicker and a little bit more mobile, whatever. But like I say, the little ones around your feet, whatever. If you were close to them, it's fine. But if you were not that close to them, they'd go by, whatever. So the smaller element of the centre forward, really.
And sort of following on, I'm sure you played with many great players in the Premier League. Who was the best player's shirt that you swapped with at the end of the game?
Well, see, that is the snow. We weren't allowed to swap shirts then. Yeah. So in the Premiership, I would have gladly had 24 shirts of somebody, but I can honestly say I've only just got my shirts. That's all I've got. Because then you never saw that. They never swapped shirts. And also probably Swindon can afford to give us all our shirts, probably.
No, because I think it's a little known fact that actually when players give shirts away, they have to pay for them, don't they? So, we're talking 50
You're saying I'm tight. You're saying I'm tight then. Well, at the time, we were told at the time, not being funny, whether we had abundance of shirts to give away, it wasn't the thing then, was it? That's what I'm trying to say.
No.
I mean, now it's like they're taking them up before the game's finished and all that, aren't they? Half the time. That was, and like Hannah, like I said to Hannah, it'd be nice to have some people's shirts, whatever. I've got some nice pictures. I've got some big stills that were taken from the county ground. When I say taken, say that I could have whatever. I've got a big frame picture of a nice coloured one, but it's again not hung up anywhere. It's in the attic, quite sad really. But of me and Mark Hughes with him obviously in front of me, a nice still there, and I'm trying to think another one, whatever. But they're nice, they're real big, but obviously they look okay in the county ground, but obviously not on the wall on my house, if you know what I mean.
And what was your favourite game to play in the Premier League?
Oh, in the Premier League, I would say it's got to be, though we lost, playing it. Obviously, being a Man United supporter, playing at Old Trafford and playing, not so I could name the whole team, whatever, but the worst scenario was that Ryan Giggs went off and Conchausis come on. Now, people who know football would Ryan Giggs comes off and they replace him with someone who's just as quick and just as skillful as him. That's a nightmare for one of our fullbacks, I think. But playing against Man United at Old Trafford, but then also, like you said, the home game when we played and drew at home against Man United, the champions of the Premiership.
And what about your favourite game outside of the Premier League?
Need to say any more? Like I said, obviously the playoff final, Swindon Town versus Leicester City 4-3.
So we've got a question actually about the playoff final. So we've got here, it must have been an incredible feeling to obviously get your goal, but what was your favourite memory, if it wasn't that, from that entire weekend?
What triggered was when the final whistle blew, we were all elated, and this is, I'm not a sad person, but all the Leicester players were all like slumped down, sitting down, quite dejected and all that. It a note, whatever, like it could have been us, if you know what I mean, but not saying that it wasn't, but it just, when the final whistle, we were all elated, we all went to each other, we all congratulated each other. But then you looked around and like all their players were all sat around, like literally exhausted, sat on the floor. All their efforts had like come to nothing, whatever. But also thinking that could have been easy, not so easy us, but because it wasn't. But it was that hit me a little bit. But then, like Vic said, I think getting back on the bus and not really knowing that all the fans went there, but how we actually, well, imagine going down into Swindon, Great Western, whatever, and like the people over the bridges and things like that, and that was unbelievable. Like you see things, like I say, when you see Liverpool or Man United win the championship, they go through the town and all that. It was just like that. It just seemed, it was like where they all come from, where they all been.
Yeah, we'd like to see them back again, please.
And are you still in touch with any of the squad from the 1993?
Yes, I still say not recently, but obviously I speak to Paul Bowling quite a bit when I was obviously one of the coach. I was in coaching, whatever, because obviously he works for the Welsh Football Association, so he's like a scout, and we had players and all that. Speak to Martin, not all the time, but obviously occasionally, whatever. Trying to think. When we had a reunion which was fantastic. When we had the reunion, I mean, that was great to see all the players. But with being football, obviously, it was always, everyone always says the same thing. It's like we're all good friends, and like if we all they all got invited around here again, we'd all have the same chat, whatever. But in football, it's like, yes, you have got good friends, but obviously they're all very, very, we're all good acquaintances, if you know what I mean. So it's like that's always like a thing with the football people, really.
And sort of moving on to the Premier League season. So do you think if Glenn and Colin had stayed, would we have stayed up?
Might need a few more better players as well. Maybe another centre half, maybe. No. I think we lost, like we said the day, we lost key players, like you say, like you rightly said, Glenn, Otto, Colin, Dave Mitchell, whatever. But that was a time where we didn't have the money to replace them with probably on par players, whatever. So, and that's no disrespect to the ones who came in, whatever. But it's all changed now, whatever. So, I'm not saying we wouldn't have done it, but like I said, I think we would still maybe struggle to stay up, whatever. But like I say, we'll never know.
Very true. So the question from Ian: have you still got any of your gum shields?
Very well. The answer to that, yes, I have, but I haven't. But I've not put them on for a long time.
Dare I ask how many you've still got stored away?
I think off my head, I know I've got, that's mostly sad, I've got 2 anyway, and they're red, nice red ones, which is quite good colour, being Swindon is red.
Yeah.
Not that, but
Yeah.
also red is blood. Blood is red.
So we've just got a couple more for you. So what do you think which was your favourite goal to have ever scored?
Obviously, again, it's easy to say, the one at Wembley was an important goal I scored. But as Vic said, I've scored numerous goals. Whatever. I can remember one game it might be in the promotion season against Watford where I scored a diving header. But when I say a diving header, it was probably easier to tap it in my foot. I was so low to the ground that I headed the ball like really low, where it was probably easy to kick it in, whatever. But I did a diving header, I think, and end goal was David James and all that. So that was, I mean, you can remember some of the goals, but probably the final goal was just sort of like how it all evolved and all that, and obviously being the third goal, and probably thought that we've done enough to win the game by then, but obviously we hadn't done that enough.
And a question from Tim here. So what was the best piece of skill that you saw from Glenn Hoddle performing either in training or in a match?
It's hard to explain. So he's very good. So if the ball's thrown to him, whatever, he used to keep it up with the heel, whatever, and then volley it with that foot. Or then the ball would go on the other foot. He'd flick it up with his heel and he'd volley it with that other foot. His both feet were just as on par. And like I say, his technique was the thing. Obviously, people will realise there. But he used to control the ball, keep the ball up with the outside of the foot, and then he had a sweet volley and a good technique. I can just see it, imagine it now, to be honest.
Yeah. Actually, I've got a question from Jamie Newton, who's a town fan, goes home and away. Were you ever in for any Swindon vacancy? I mean, when the manager, you mentioned Exeter, were you ever in for any of them?
I did. I applied. I'm trying to think when I was living in Bristol. I think I applied. I did apply and got nothing back. Whatever. No. I mean, going back on that bit, like I said before, it was a natural thing. Once you're a player, you end up being a coach and a manager, whatever. I can honestly say probably I wasn't. And when Martin, I said to Martin, when I was at Torquay, he left for a while, I was in charge. And though I won one game at a 5 or something like that, and you always remember those things, I quite enjoyed it, but it does, people got to realise how difficult the job is, whatever. And it's easy to say, oh, you never tried it, and I have tried it, and I probably hey, if you had success and all that, but it's so hard at any level. If you're not being funny, if you're not successful once, you might not ever have an opportunity, whatever. And that never worried me there. I felt that I always felt I was a team player. So I always felt like I could lend my hand. I had common sense. I could listen to people and things like that. Everyone always said, oh, everyone's always an easy number 2, whatever. But it's just as hard being a number 2, because obviously you've got to support the manager. You've got to do the right things. You also got to tell the manager also that's not right. And he's got to have your experience and all things like that. So there is that. Good, successful managers and coaches or assistants does make it easy for you. So it's easy to say. I just felt I was just more suited to assist someone or support someone than being an actual manager. But never really. Maybe if I had that, like I say, probably the turning point was probably having an opportunity maybe at Exeter early in my end of my career, whatever. And who knows, whatever. But like I say, I don't hold anything against it. I just probably, as I've got older, realised maybe I wouldn't necessarily been that good a manager anyway.
Fair enough. I suppose the thing is, as a player, you're responsible for yourself, but all of a sudden you're responsible for everything, aren't you? It's actually different. Yeah.
But I think, like with the assistant, I don't think people realise the manager will definitely appreciate his second in command, whatever, on a lot of things, whatever, where if he can pick things up, whatever, he's almost like I said before, and that's what I'll say again, John Gorman was a great foil for Glenn Hoddle, whatever. I mean, John was, not that Glenn wasn't like obviously close and all that, but John was closer to the players, whatever, had that little bit in between. It didn't always get to the manager, and that's what I'm trying to say. Certain things, never actually got to the manager. So that was, as I see, that's a success, whatever. So people mustn't undermine people that are in second in command, whatever. I think the managers do appreciate their lieutenants and things.
Marvellous. Well, I think, is that about it, Hannah? Can we let Shaun go and watch the rest of the Man United?
I'm not in a rush. If I could be here all night now, no, I'm not rushing. You know what people are like. If they want to talk, answer questions, I don't mind. Depending if the swing switches off or something like that.
No, I think we're just about done. So we've just got one more, which I think we'll end on. So aside from the playoff final, what's your favourite memory of being at Swindon?
Maybe when memories that when my youngest son was mascot, so he come onto the pitch with his Swindon gear on. That's quite a nice memory. But I think the memories is that whenever I think that the fans, we said before, with Vic, whatever, I appreciate them and I think they appreciate me, and I give my all and they always give it all back, whatever. And they could see I was trying, but I knew what it meant to them. And like I say, I think we had that relationship where, I know I wasn't always perfect. I didn't play well every game, whatever, but they knew I was trying. Like I say, I was in their shoes, wherever they wanted to be, where I was.
Well, it's as I said before, it's very rare for a player to be fondly remembered at all the clubs that you've been at, and I think that says a lot about you as a player and a person. That's all you can say, really. So, thank you very much indeed for your time this evening, Shaun. It's been great as always talking to you.
Thank you.
And good luck with what you're doing at the minute, and I know you're enjoying it, and let's hope the sun continues to shine. Well, it hasn't been the last 24 hours, but good luck with the grass cutting yesterday. That's all I can say.
I was not out yesterday, thank God. Today's better than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much indeed, Shaun, and
no problem at all.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
And welcome across the water. We'll say that again. Shaun Taylor, ladies and gentlemen, or Oooh Shaun Taylor, to give him his proper name. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hannah, thank you very much indeed for your time again. And I believe we're back on Monday. Is that right?
Yep, we are indeed. So we'll be back on Monday, same time, where we'll be hosting Sam Parkin.
Right. Can I switch off now? Oh, I should switch off now anyway.
Well, it's up to you. You can stay there all night if you want.
You're not going for a drink or anything, are you? You're not going for a drink or anything, are you?
Yeah, you are. There you are. There's your drink, Shaun.
As you can see, my bottle of water, all prepared and all that.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Shaun. All the very best to you.
Thank you.
Bye. Cheers, Vic. Thank Hannah. Thank you. Bye.
Yes, so I think that is about us done. So again, thank you very much, Vic, for all of your time spent prepping and interviewing for us. And thank you everyone for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Thank you.